All right, so we are going to be reviewing Unit 1 this week, and Unit 1's title is Thinking Geographically. And every day I'm going to just kind of go over the parts of Unit 1 that we are going to be focusing on for your discussion post, but as well, hopefully this will help you with some of the terms assignment as well as the concepts assignment as well. So I'm going to be going pretty quickly. Make sure that you jot down any questions that you might have. You can always email me with questions, or you can also wait until the webinar each week, which you'll be able to answer. I'll be able to hopefully answer questions in a little more detail. So this is meant to be very, very quick review. Hopefully not taking too much time out of your day. So the Unit 1 topics, these are the 7 Unit 1 topics. Today we're going to be focusing on the first and the sixth one. So we're going to talk about an introduction to maps and scales of analysis. And the reason I'm jumping around is because I think that when we talk about maps, we talk about how maps tell us stories, but also they can be interpreted in different ways. I think thinking about not only what the map is showing and the distortion, but also the scale that we're taking a look at and what we're actually seeing on the map kind of go together. So Monday's topics today is introduction to maps. So we're going to talk about types of maps, types of spatial patterns, and that all maps are selective in information. And then once again, scales of analysis, which are global, regional, national, local, and everything in between there, as well as the patterns and processes at different scales reveal variations in different interpretations of data. And that is what your discussion post is going to focus on today, is what do different patterns and what do different scales of analysis reveal about what's going on at particular scales. So once again, introduction to maps. Maps present information. They show us spatial patterns and relationships. And different spatial patterns that we can see in maps are absolute and relative distance, direction, clustering, dispersal. We take a look at distribution and patterns in maps. And we can also sometimes see elevation in maps as well. And we also need to remember that all maps are selective in the information that they choose to show. They're all generalizations of real world, and they distort different projections, have different distortions as well. So 2 different major types of maps, reference maps versus thematic maps. So a reference map are designed to refer to general information about places, and they try to show things accurately and try to show you where things actually are. So different types of reference maps would include political maps, physical maps, road maps, plat maps, locator maps, all different sorts of reference maps. Now in human geography, we oftentimes take a look at thematic maps, and we have taken a look at a lot more of these types of maps than reference maps. So thematic maps show spatial aspects of an information or a phenomenon. They tell stories. This right here is an example of a choropleth map. So each count is colored in a different color based on how much of something it has. Other types of choropleth maps might show a state's entire color or a country's entire color, depending on the scale you're taking a look at. So choropleth maps. Dot maps show a specific location and distribution of something across a territory, and they use dots to show that. The most common dot map that we've taken a look at in the second unit was the world dot map of population distribution, where one dot equaled 100,000 people. Thematic maps, other types of thematic maps. This is a graduated symbol map, or sometimes called a proportional circle map. This one is going to show you a circle, and the size of the circle is going to show you how much of something in, for example, this one, each state has. So oil consumption, barrels per year by state, and you can see some states have much larger oil consumption, most likely due to also their population. But we created some of these maps on ArcGIS, and that's pretty simple to do so. And then isoline maps and topographic maps are sometimes similar, but this is a map where lines of similar value are used. So this is a precipitation map, but also a topographic map that shows elevation is going to be another example of an isoline map. Cartograms are the ones that are going to intentionally distort the shape and the size of different things based on how much of something it has. So in this map here, each country is larger or smaller based on its population. And so you can see that China and India are the largest on this map due to their population. This is not by area. Map projections. Okay, so those were the different types of thematic maps. Now we're going to take a look at, we know that maps are all distorted because a map is trying to flatten out, in reality, the globe or a very spherical object, which is the Earth. So cartographers have to deal with the problems of making maps, and this leads to distortion. So different distortions, there's different things that a map can never fully show accurately. So shapes can be distorted on the map, distances can be distorted on the map, the size may be altered, and direction can be distorted. And so map makers have to decide which one of those pieces, shape, distance, size, and direction, which one of those do they want to distort more in order to maybe potentially maintain something else as best they can. But there's always distortion on maps. So this Robinson projection is a compromise map. This is the one that you're most likely going to see in your atlas, if you look at an atlas. However, it doesn't really keep too many things accurate, but it compromises between the distortion of a lot of those different things. It also has those rounded edges, which make it look more like a globe. The Mercator projection, which is actually what Google Maps uses because they're trying to keep direction and distance relatively accurate so that people can compare. So it's mostly used in navigation. It was really became very important during navigation of overseas travel, like in the 1500s. But also Google Maps uses it because it's going to maintain that, like it's the best one for navigation. But it's going to make everything in the North and the South Pole look extremely large. So the size of continents are going to be skewed. Obviously, Europe, as a smaller continent, really likes this Mercator projection because it makes them look a lot bigger than they are. The Gauss-Peter does kind of the opposite of the Mercator. It's the area of each of the individual continents are going to be accurate. However, the shape is not. And there is a couple other ones. This is the Fuller projection. This one's actually probably the least distorted, but it doesn't really do a very good job of showing the world that, makes us look like we can tell where anything is. But it basically turns the sphere into different smaller triangular planes and pulls it apart like that. And this is the sinusoidal projection. Probably don't need to know this one too much. And it's another projection. Conic projection is going to look down from the North to the South Pole. Okay. So then moving on to scales of analysis. Scales of analysis are, instead of thinking about distortion on a map or thinking about different type of map, it's basically like how sometimes we can think about it as how zoomed in something is and what kind of piece of the Earth are we taking a look at. So we could be taking a look at a global perspective, the entire globe, religion, for example, global religion, regional, national, or local. And so those are kind of the four broad categories of scales of analysis, but they're not just like four different scales. There's everything in between. So when we talk about regional, we could be talking about a very small region in the United States, or we could take a look at a large region like East Asia. So that regional piece is how do we break apart things that are below the global scale. So depending on the scale that you're taking a look at, we see different things and we can interpret things in different ways. So we're going to take a look at a couple of examples. For example, this one is income levels at a global scale. So the redder countries are going to be higher income countries. The blue countries are going to be lower income countries. And each country, this is going to be a global scale, and each country is entirely colored in just based on what level it's at. So it doesn't show us anything below that national scale. We can start to see some regional, differences. North America, Europe, parts of East Asia, start to take a look at some regions as well. And then if we drop down to a national scale, we're going to see different patterns. So instead of the United States being entirely red and high income, we're going to see some differences within the United States. This is a county map of medium income. And we can see that cities, for example, Eastern Seaboard cities and Minneapolis right here, Los Angeles, San Francisco area are all going to be high income regions. This one's going to be a state by state analysis. This one's going to be zoomed into more of a local city analysis. This is Washington, D.C. and the surrounding suburbs. And the darker the region, the higher medium income. You can see that even though many of those very wealthy people maybe work in Washington, D.C., many of them live on the outskirts or live in the western suburbs of D.C. This is religion, as I was talking about. So global religion, we can see patterns at a global scale. This is helpful for us to be able to understand that, but it masks the diversity of religion. And so it doesn't show us the whole picture, but it's still an accurate map. It's still a map that shows us some generalizations. And looking at these, we can get a sense of the dominant religion in different countries and in different parts of the world. But if we want to take a look more at the diversity of religion, we're going to want to drop down to a different scale. And so this scale, the national scale, we can see county by county, the dominant church body. And so you can see those differences, and not just differences now within Christianity. So the Baptist South, Catholic as being the dominant religion in many parts of the country, Lutheranism up in the north. But then this map also kind of picks out, let's see, the dots represent the majority counties are areas in which the leading church body claims 50% or more. So this one shows us some different information. So in those areas that have dots, that means that leading church body is over 50%, so on and so forth. So it just shows different details. Same here. This is now going to be same scale, but it's going to show us different information. So you always want to pay attention to what are you looking at, the title, and then always taking a look at the key of those. Okay. So that's all for today. Hopefully that's helpful for you to answer your discussion post question. There is a video after this one to watch. As you're going to be able to tell very quickly, I did not make that video. I did find that video. However, I do think it has some really good information in it. It's way cornier than anything you're going to hear from me, at least on the video. And so some of you guys may enjoy it. Some of you guys may absolutely hate it, but pay attention to the information. It's going to be good for reviewing Unit 1. All right. Have a great day, morning, afternoon, whatever comes your way.